Hello fellow hunters of the blue and welcome to my channel, and also welcome to Heavy Contrast Marines. This is a series where I paint a space marine using contrast paints to a level as high as I can possibly get to the heavy metal team. In this episode I will be painting Salamanders. Let's get cracking. We have our model base coated, in this case is Corax White spray, and I also did a good layer of Corax White base paint all over, just to cover all the little parts that the spray didn't catch. And now what I'm going to do is go all over the green parts with a very thin layer of Iyanden yellow. This is not diluted in any way, it's straight out of the pot, but I'm going to apply it very thinly. What I mean by thinly is I'm not going to allow it to pool anywhere. I just want a good uniform layer . The trick here is go panel by panel and try to be, or section by section, and try to be as smooth as possible. Our coat of Iyanden yellow is now completely dry, and I'm going to go over all the parts that I did Iyanden yellow with warp lightning. I'm going to do just a normal coat of this. As always, brush it in the direction you want the shadows to go and move section by section, covering all before jumping into another one. Our first coat of warp lining is dry, and as you can see, the color is looking a bit bright for a salamander. Maybe it would be okay for a mantis warrior, but not for a salamander. So I'm going to do a second coat. This time I'm going to do it as I did the Iyanden yellow. Just apply it very thinly. We just want to build up the saturation of the green, that's all. We don't want it to create extra shadows or anything, just give us a good looking green. You can already tell the difference between the leg that has two coats and the leg that just has one. Our second coat of warp lining is now completed, and what I'm going to do now is edge highlight all the armor using mood green. Apart from edge highlighting the armor, in the rounded part, I like to do a glaze to create a bright spot. Our highlights of mood green are now done. I'm going to move into the next highlight, and this time I'm using Flasket's yellow. I'm just going to do basically the same thing I did with the mood green, just covering a smaller area. And on the rounded parts, I'm just trying to do a small light reflection there with the yellow. Our highlight of Flasket yellow is now finished. I'm going to move into the last highlight. This time I'm using Dawn yellow. And what I'm going to do with Dawn yellow is just do small dots or lines where I feel the light will hit. You can already tell with just 4 or 5 highlights how much difference it makes, that last extreme highlight. This is a very important step to get a really good looking armor. With that last highlight, the green parts of the armor are now finished. Would you look at that? I really like this one. And now we're going to move into blocking all the other details that are not green. I'm going to start with base coating the armor joints, the tubes, purity seal, and the white part of his mask with Corax white. With other rubber parts and a couple more base coated in Corax white, I'm going to move into shading and painting all the rubber parts, starting by giving them a bluish tone using Glaze Feathering grey. While the Glaze Feathering grey dries, I'm going to base coat all the parts that will be bone colored with skeleton horde. The Glaze Feathering grey is now completely dry, and I'm going to base coat all the areas that I did Glaze Feathering grey with Black Templar. Our coat of Black Templar is completely dry, and I'm going to highlight all the rubber parts using Fenrisian grey. Our highlight of Fenrisian Grey is finished. I'm going to do a last highlight with Ulthuan Grey. What I'm going to do, as I did with the Dawn Yellow, is just making dots of this in the middle of the Fenrisian Grey highlight. As you can see, I also try to keep those highlights in line with the highlights I did on the arms and on the rest of the body. That will help create the effect of this shiny armor. With the black parts now finished, I'm going to move into the bone parts. For this I'm taking wildwood and very thinly I'm going to reinforce the shadows. For example, in the parchment of his purity seal. I'm going to run a small line separating both papers. On his mouth, I'm going to run a line and pick up that detail, also his nose, under his cheekbones and all the rest of the shadow details. Now I'm going to highlight all the face and bone details. For this, I'm using palette witch flesh. We'll pick out his teeth and all the edge highlights across his mask. His purity seal, I will just do an edge highlight and also pick out all the folds in each piece of paper. And now to finish off the bone parts, I'm going to take pure white and just do a last highlight. Just pick out the most prominent features. With the bone parts now finished, there's one last step to do, and that is the freehand on his purity seal. For this I'm just using wildwood and I will just do some squiggly lines over the surface. With the freehand done, it's now time to move into the black parts of the armor. For this I'm Basecoating them using Mechanicus Standard Grey. I'm also going to Basecoat all the leather parts using DAWNSTONE. This will create two slightly different tones of black after the black temper is applied. Now we have our base coats applied. I'm going to go all over the areas we just base coated using black temper. Our black Templar is completely dry. Now I'm going to highlight, starting from the black armor panels. These are darker. I'm going to highlight them using Mechanicus Standard Grey. Just do an edge highlight all around those panels. Our edge highlight of Mechanical Standard Grey is now completed. Now I'm going to do another one, using DAWNSTONE. I'm going to do this all over the black parts, including the leather. For the leather parts I will do a complete edge highlight. And for the Mechanical Standard Grey parts I will do a smaller edge highlight than I did previously. Our highlight of DAWNSTONE is now completed, and I'm going to move into Administration Grey. For the armor panels, this will be the last highlight, and I will just do a very small dot right in the corners. And for the leather parts, this will be a small edge highlight. And now for the final highlight on the black part, I'm going to do Ulthuan Grey. This will be just for the leather parts, and I will just do little dots in all the corners. All the black on the miniature is now done, and I'm going to move into the final details. For this I'm starting with his grenades and the purity seal. And for this I'm using Flesh Tearers Red. While the Flesh Tearers Red dries, I'm going to move into his pauldron here, and I'm going to do a freehand using Corax White. The Flesh Tearers Red is now dry, and I'm going to highlight it using Cadian Fleshstone. And for a final highlight on the bone parts, I'm going to use Shapti Bone. For our next step, I'm going to do a coat of yen and yellow on his eye lenses, on the fire on his shoulder. For the eye lenses, I'm going to brush it in this direction, so more yellow goes into this corner and gets darker. For the shoulder pad, I'm going to try and do a smooth coat as I can possibly do. Now I'm going to try and wipe off the excess paint on the bottom. Now I'm going to move into Nasdaq yellow for his eye lenses. I'm just going to do a very small... I'm going to try to just brush it on in the back side of the eye. And for a final contrast step on his eyes, I'm going to use a snakeback leather and just apply it in the very far corner. Now I'm going to highlight his eyes, and for this I'm using Phalanx yellow. And for a final highlight, I'm going to use Dawn yellow and try to do the smallest possible dot I can in the front. And now for the final step on his eyes, I'm going to do a small white dot right in the back. Now I move into his shoulder and I'm going to do a glaze of Freehand orange. Apply the glaze and then feather it out with a clean brush. For the last step I'm going to move into Flare Serious Red, and what I will do is apply it in each tip, clean my brush and feather it out into the rest of the body. Apply it, clean the brush and feather it out. The Flare Serious Red is now finished. I did a couple of passes to build up the intensity. And now I'm going to clean up because I don't know if you can see, but a bit of the red got into the black and it's not black anymore, so I'm going to reinforce that with Black Templar. And now with the same Black Templar paint, I'm going to paint like ashes. And here's just small dots of this. If some of the ashes you don't like or get a bit big, you can use Flask Glitz Yellow, like I'm going to do now, to clean it up. Our fire effect is now completed, and I'm going to move into the two last details left to paint, and those are all the metallic parts. I'm going to start with the gold ones, and for this I'm using Liberator Gold. And for the rest of the metallic parts, I'm going to use Iron Breaker. Our metallic base coats are now applied, and I'm going to shade the gold parts. For this I'm using Gilliman Flesh straight out of the pot. While the Gilliman Flesh dries, I'm going to shade all the silver metallic parts. For this I'm using Black Templar mixed with Contrast Medium. It's 1 part Black Templar, 4 parts Contrast Medium. For the sword, what I'm going to do is create a gradient starting from light to dark and from dark to light. So I'm using Black Templar straight out of the pot. I will apply it and then feather it out, cleaning my brush first. Our Black Templar glazes and feathering is now dry. I'm going to do a glaze with Iron Breaker on the other direction just to smooth out the transition and build the highlights again. And again I apply it and then feather it out. Now this is done, I'm going to edge highlight all the sword again using Iron Breaker. Now I'm going to move into shading a bit more the gold areas. For this I'm using a mix of 1 part wildwood with 2 parts medium. And I will just do a pin wash with this. All the areas that I needed. Just rivets, joints. And now for our final step, we're going to edge highlight all the metallic parts, including the gold, with a Stormhold silver. Also, of course, the silver bits. On the sword, I will just do this in the highlight parts. So with that last step done, the model is finished. I took the liberty to also paint his base. If you want to see how I did his base, you can check this video. I really hope you liked it, because I really had a blast painting this guy. I'm extremely happy how he turned out. Probably, so far, this is my favorite contrast marine by far. As I said, I really hope you liked the video, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Do you want to decide what I paint in the channel, or have any recipe that you want me to make for you? Then consider Patreon. I just opened a Patreon account, you have a link in the description below. Patreon will help me do all the cool projects that I want to make, and help me improve the quality of my videos. Don't be afraid, no content will ever be hidden behind a paywall, but it's just a nice way to help me, and you will get something back for your generosity. As I said guys, thank you very much for watching, and a special thank you to Kevin Solars, I really hope I didn't butcher your name, for being the coolest person in the planet. Be like Kevin and join my Patreon and take control.